Hi there. Welcome to the third episode of the Marketing Automation Conversation. And today I'm joined by Dennis Peters, dear friend and ex-colleague. Dennis, how are you?
All good, thanks. How are you?
Yes, long time no see.
It's been a while indeed.
Yes.
It's been cam to cam. Now it's finally sort of face to face, but
Still a screen, but it's a transparent
absolutely.
screen. That's good.
It's nearly invisible for the viewers, so that's cool.
Perfect. All right, so Dennis works at Selligent, and Dennis, you've been through various roles over the years. And
That's
maybe
right.
it's good for the audience if you could introduce yourself and maybe tell a bit more about your background.
Okay. So I have a background in applied informatics. That's something we join, I assume, or that we share from past experiences. After my education, I started working for a big consultancy firm, mainly focused around the delivery of .NET services and SharePoint services, where I worked as a developer, obviously. But pretty soon I realized that this was not the way forward for me. So I struggled a bit with the lack of interaction myself with the customer and just being in an execution role or so. So I figured I want to do something else. I want to be part of the project team or steer the project to success. And therefore, an opportunity came across really from Optizen at the time, which was later merged with Selligent Marketing Cloud. And there I started initially as a developer once again, but from there it went really smooth in other directions, if you like. So I think after a year or so, I got the chance to do project management, so being in charge of projects and steering them to success. And that's actually where I also learned and found or discovered my passion for the commercial side of the business. Because on the one hand, obviously you're steering a project to success, but on the other hand, you're also there to detect whether there is follow-up projects that we could do together, etc. And from there, it moved forward into the commercial direction of the organization. So I think a year or so after, I moved into a pre-sales engineer role where I supported the salespeople in the organization by doing hands-on workshops, demonstrations of the platform, presentations, etc. And then again, shortly after, I went into a key account manager role, so actually on the commercial side of the business. And then most recently, I think a little over 2 years now, I'm heading sales for Benelux and the wider Nordics area at Selligent Marketing Cloud. So it's a bit of my background.
You've not been standing still.
No.
Not at all.
Luckily not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you remember, when did you first really start to understand marketing and automation? How did you get in touch with it? How did you come across it? Was it something you knew before you joined, I think Optizen, but let's say Selligent at the time? Or was it something that developed afterwards?
Not at all. It was a whole distance from my world at the time because I was a .NET and SharePoint developer and I was so deep into technique that it's really like a niche that you're working in. And then because of some former colleagues and friends at that big consultancy firm that had moved to, let's say, Selligent, I also got the opportunity to join a young dynamic team. I think I was employee number 20 or so, so
Okay.
it was really like a startup mentality.
A long time ago as well.
It's a long time
Not
ago.
saying that you're old, by the way, but...
Thanks, Marco. Turning a bit gray, but that's part of the game. But where was I?
Yeah, employee number 20, you said.
Yeah.
Pretty early joiner of the team.
Only at the time when I was working on the project, because initially I started Selligent working as a developer. So I was a bit surprised and also fascinated by the fact like you don't need to code everything from scratch to reuse it in the future. So that was a new thing for me, that it could be consolidated in what we call building blocks for building journeys or campaign flows, whatever. And I think throughout the first year I was working as a developer at Selligent, I mean a web and campaign specialist, so really using the platform, not back-end programming in the R&D team, but as a web consultant. I really started to see the benefits and the use of, okay, how this could help brands across various industries. So that's basically where I discovered the real impact of marketing automation. It was during the first year at Selligent, after building up some experience with the platform myself, that I got to see the bigger picture and the bigger impact of such solutions.
So it's something that came afterwards, you said. And if you, because how many years was this ago? 10 years, 11 years?
Yeah, just a little over 11 years now with Selligent, yeah. So.
And if you look at
years.
marketing automation as a concept back then, I remember because we used to work together.
Yep.
It was very different, right? It was like email campaigns, really email focused.
Absolutely.
Selecting a segment, blasting out the email. That was the biggest level of marketing automation I think there was, and sending a follow-up email if somebody didn't engage and whatnot. But how did you, from your experience, how did you see it evolve over time? Because now we're completely in a different era, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, at first it was like one size fits all. It was like mass marketing, using new media at the time. It was email. It was also incorporating older media like direct mail, web pages, etc. And then it started to shift towards interactive marketing. So the more relevant and personalized you could do the communication, the better for the results, basically. And over time, obviously, with the new trends and the new media types that came into this world, like social media, mobile applications, push notification, in-app messaging, those type of things, it elevated, obviously, again, the omni-channel marketing automation aspect. And today we are in a world or in a stream with marketing automation where we say, well, how can we make life for the marketer even more easier so that they can focus on what really matters, the creativity, the innovation aspects of marketing automation by fully automating the work that can be automated, obviously, and let them focus on the fun stuff. And I think, for instance, artificial intelligence is playing a major role in there already today.
Absolutely.
But will also be important for the next years to come, I believe.
And did you also see the shift from, firstly, of course, we went from channel-based communication to more consumer-focused communication.
Yep.
And I know you guys talk a lot about the shift in the paradigm, right? So now it's all about the consumer and starting from there and then building up. Did this also have an impact on, for example, the development of the platform that you provide? Was there a real shift in focus of the roadmap? Maybe different conversations you're having with customers, rather than these are just the features that we do, and we can make your life easier. Of course, that's what you want to do, but also the focus on the consumer.
Yep.
Did you see something happening there? Something that you still see evolving over time?
Sure. Where everything was a lot more product service focused in the past, like companies want to sell their services or their products, they made a shift, putting the customer at the center or the consumer at the center, because it's both customers and prospects they want to be engaged with. It also influenced like the marketing automation or the martech scene in that specific domain, because what do you need if you want to put the customer at the center? Like a centralized customer view, a 360 customer view. And that was not something necessarily incorporated in the early stages of marketing automation tooling, and that's definitely an example of how it influenced the roadmap and what has been done on Selligent Marketing Cloud in the meantime, but also in our solutions similar to Selligent Marketing Cloud. So yes, for sure.
So really the focus on getting to know the consumer and then building up.
Yep. Data is king, obviously. So the more you know about your consumer, whether it's a prospect or a customer, the better you can serve them, and the more chances that they will convert in a possible in the best possible way for your brand.
And if you look at where we were 10, 11 years ago and look at where we are now, let's say you had a magic ball, right? Let's say you had a magic wand or magic, how do you like to, I don't know how you like to see in the future, but let's say you could look forward 5, 10 years. What would you say would be the situation then? Where would we be?
Well, I think it extends on what I mentioned earlier. So I think the primary goal of businesses today is to really understand their customers. So a container noun that we hear every now and then, or is massively used in 2020, 2021, it's CDP, so a customer data platform. So you want to gather, centralize as much customer data as you possibly can to better serve your consumers. And on the other hand, I think the second takeaway is like the marketeers, their life should become easier and easier in the future in terms of how you use the platform and where you should focus your time on the creativity rather than the manual jobs to be done, which were complicated in the past because it was not possible to automate them. And again, I think artificial intelligence will have an imperative role on how these solutions will look like in 5 to 10 years from now.
And will that maybe end specific roles, like marketeer roles, or do you think the role will evolve as well? Because that's something that a lot of people are unsure about. So will it replace certain things? Like, are we not going to need specific roles anymore, or will their job just change? What do you think?
It's an interesting question, obviously. I'm always a big believer of the human factor behind marketing. So do I believe that machines will take over the world or the marketing business as such and be able to scale a business? It will be an asset, right, of the bigger picture. Yeah. So my feeling is that roles will evolve over time, like a database marketeer that we know today. It will be different things they're working on in the future for sure, if you know that artificial intelligence can take part of their manual work done today out of their hands. But I'm truly convinced that artificial intelligence, it needs some influence from people that understand the data, the business behind, etc. as well, to tweak it, to update the models, to fine tune. So my feeling is that these roles will just evolve over time, and maybe left or right, some roles will disappear, but it's difficult to pinpoint the specific role where I say, well, it will not exist anymore. What do you think?
I feel the same way, and to be honest, if you would ask me 5 years ago, or maybe even more, will there be an app where you can just push one button and in like 2 or 3 minutes a taxi will be in front of you? You don't even have to pay. You don't even have to say hello to the driver, and afterwards you get rated and you can rate them. I would say you're crazy, right?
Yeah.
But now it's just going so quickly, so I'm very cautious with making any predictions. But I agree. I think artificial intelligence and technology will become smarter, and we will play a bigger role in everything we do. But to be honest, it's not easy anymore, right? If you look at the martech, what's it called? The chief martech, I think it's the martech ecosystem landscape picture, right? It's 8,000, 9,000 type of tools in there. If I was a marketeer and you would ask me, okay, based on the stage of the growth I'm in or the company is in, based on the profiles we have internally, based on where we want to go to, pick a platform. I wouldn't be able to start if I was a marketeer without having in-depth knowledge about these platforms. So, seeing that you're in that type of role now at Selligent, you're consulting with clients and prospects all the time. Yeah, how would you recommend they handle it? What are your tips regarding that? Because it's becoming it's crazy.
Yep, that's true. It's a widespread landscape indeed, with different flavors, lots of different flavors, lots of different backgrounds as well, because you have tools originating from the web, from email, from data, from analytics, whatever, and they're all like in the same stream or coming in the same water, if you like. And with some overlapping services as well. So what I would recommend is, or what I usually recommend is, don't try to investigate, research those companies yourself, but make use of what I call mentorship. Make sure that you're engaged with a specialist or a series of specialists in this specific niche who can guide you through and help you with what are your requirements, what are your needs, what are the problems you want to solve, where is the weight in those different problems, to guide you really in the direction of like these series or this set of solutions you should have a closer look at. And again, the mentor will then advise like, watch out for these differences, or how can we get them visual above the surface, like where are the differences. So no, I'm a big believer of mentorship, because you can avoid a lot of pitfalls that you could have that you couldn't have avoided when you would do the research yourself. And again, you might spend some money to engage with a company like Dignify, Selligent, or any other specialists in this specific space, but you will win so much time if you do so, and you can get ahead of the curve basically. And I think that's a necessity if you want to explore such a broad martech space. Engage with the right people, surround yourself by the right people or the right companies in order to investigate what's right fit for your business and your needs.
Yeah, because at the surface, at first glance, you see that a lot of platforms claim to do the same thing, but there's always something that they're really good at. Something about their background or where they used to come from, or looking at the roadmap, what the real focus is. And as I tell the team internally, but also I've told this to the audience a few times, there are no bad tools, there are only bad choices.
Absolutely. And sorry to interrupt, but to my interpretation or to my feeling, a tool is just 30% of the solution.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's all about the people that work the solution with you or work the software with you that form a total solution.
Yeah.
So the people or the brand or the agency that you use forces with to work on a day-to-day base for implementing a project or a series of projects, it's the key basically of success, rather than the solution you pick, because as you mentioned, there is no bad solutions out there. It's the way you want to use them will help you detect what is the right solution that fits the right software, basically, that fits my requirements, my needs, but then it's also the people on top of that that should make the success out of it.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best tool, the most expensive tool out there
Absolutely.
in your organization, but if you have a crappy team around that, you will never get the ROI out of it, right?
Yeah. Or if you start off with the wrong assumptions and you don't have the team, or you know you have limited amount of resources to operate the tool, or with a different background, with a different expertise, then it doesn't work out. And
Absolutely.
I compare this sometimes to, you can buy the most expensive car, the fastest car there is. First, you need a license to drive it, right? Otherwise, it's sitting in your garage. But also, I think technology, so marketing technology, is more like a road. It's like a series of roads that you build, right? As software vendors like Selligent and people who assist, they help build the road, and the people on it should be able to drive it themselves.
Absolutely.
So like the marketing team, but it's more than marketing nowadays, right? It's marketing team, the sales, it's all coming together.
Customer service.
Yeah.
Everything.
And that's truly the definition of being customer centric.
Yeah.
And that's why they also experience with, by working together with you, we've been through quite an interesting few stories and how can we summarize it? Pitches as well, right? I remember one.
It was fun.
I will give you a hint, and you have to tell the story, but I'll give you a hint. It's something that has to do with an ice cream car.
Oh my god!
And it was a company. It was in London, right? Yeah. Maybe you can share.
I
the
recall.
story.
So you were working at the time in the UK office as a pre-sales engineer.
Yeah.
You were collaborating with a sales, obviously, on a hot pursuit, and the sales guy called in sick, if I'm not mistaken. So they asked me if I could come over from Belgium to UK to assist and then work together, because we have been working for a long time together. So we were played into one to another, let's say. And then we went to that company, which I will not name. And it was so bloody hot that day. Yeah. I recall it was so freaking hot.
It was like containers, right?
Yeah.
So these metal offices.
Yeah. So air conditioning, it wasn't founded yet at that time, I think. So it was so bloody hot. We were crammed with roughly 20 people in a small meeting room. And the pitch was about to get started, and I felt quite tense because, one, it's not in my mother tongue, so it was in English. Yeah. I had to step in for another salesperson last minute who called in sick. So it was quite tense at the time, and I was happy that we could do it together. And I recall standing in front of the audience in this cramped container meeting room with temperatures, I don't know, and I was like sweating all over my face, and I was like, just recall that you just have to keep going. Don't give in to the sweat and what people might think. Just do your story and make it interactive as possible. And the audience could sense like this guy he's seeing dead or something at this time. He's suffering, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, in a very quiet moment, there was an ice cream car that just was making sounds and doing a block around the office area, and everybody started laughing, and
it broke the ice.
It broke the ice literally. The meeting was just on for 5 or 10 minutes or so, and afterwards it was like.
Yeah, it went like it was nothing. Yeah. And I remember the ice cream truck it came around a few times, and then everybody just started laughing again. Yeah. And
it really broke the ice, and people started to loosen up and ask questions, and it became far more interactive. So it's like one of these nice stories that we have experienced together.
And one with a good ending too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We signed it off. So the sales guy who called in sick, he was also very happy.
Yeah,
obviously.
of course.
So that's nice.
So what's the moral of the story? Just go for it. Don't give in.
Yeah. It happens to you, right? So if you're in front of an audience and you're tense, but it's more like a sales technique then, or it has nothing to do with marketing automation, but it's more like a personal feeling what you get in a certain circumstance. Like everything can be worse than your experiences at this moment. So what you should do is grab it, make the best out of it, and it will play in your favor in the end. And that's exactly what happened. But it's not necessarily an immediate link with marketing automation. It's more like a general thing in life, I would say.
That's still good advice. And why I mentioned the story is because I had a lot of opportunities to work with you, and what you just said about, you know, having people who consult, so not sell you something, but actually advise you to make the right choice. I think that's key, and that's something you've always done, and what I've witnessed. And I think with the story, I hope to bring this to life a bit to the audience. But it was a very good example of just, you know, focus on the matter at hand, which was helping those people make the right decision, and don't focus on anything else. Don't focus on the surroundings, ice cream trucks. There was 40 degrees inside.
And it puts a human factor in it, right? And in the end, I'm a big believer again of people by people. So it puts a human factor in there. Like sometimes we're afraid, we're tense, but you just have to take care of the situation and get yourself together and go for it and think beyond what you're experiencing at that very moment. And this also plays into marketing automation, or when you're implementing specific features and it doesn't work out like you want to do it, consult a partner, consult an expert in this specific domain.
Get some help.
Get some help, right? And take care of the situation. So,
So maybe one last question, right? So there might be people watching who are in a position where they feel like they need some help, right? They need a platform. They need to go forward, and they're struggling a bit. They're reading a lot, right? They're stuck. Like, what should I do? What would be one key piece of advice you would have for them? And you probably have a lot, and maybe the advice is call Dennis. That could be one. But what's one thing where you say, well, if you're talking to these vendors, right, do this thing here?
For me, there is a big difference. Like, if you already know what you want to accomplish and what your business can accomplish with marketing automation, then I would highly advise to be engaged with an agency partner of Selligent or of another martech solution out there to guide you throughout the first steps, like doing a detailed analysis together. What are the short-term wins that we want to get out of the investment, basically? What is the long-term roadmap that we want to accomplish, so you know what you're building towards. If you don't have a clue, like what is the potential of marketing automation for our business, then I would even more advise to engage with some experts in the space and have a couple or a series of discussions with them to educate yourself on what could it mean to your business, and then take it from there. If you are in a stage where you're already evaluating different solutions, like Selligent Marketing Cloud or Salesforce or Adobe or whatsoever, at some point you need to let the masks fall off, if you like. So instead of just going forward based on this is a PowerPoint presentation of what the solution can do for you and what we've done with other customers, etc., and maybe it's followed by a demonstration or even custom demonstration, I would highly recommend to challenge these vendors against each other, provide them with a series of use cases that would help you boost your business as a brand, let them implement that in sort of a custom demo and showcase it to you. Because this is the only way where you can compare like different solutions, because on the website it might look and it might seem that they're all at the same level and the only difference you see is maybe in price. But you should go to the details of, if my marketers start using this platform tomorrow, how will they experience it? What will they come across?
And won't we get stuck, for example, in 2 months' time, because it goes further than what we asked for during the demo or during the presentation. So I really like the tip you mentioned, and I'm happy that you did that, because I would say the same thing, look under the hood. Right? Ask them to lift up the hood and look into it yourself, and be very pragmatic about it. I think that's very good advice from you.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of the episode, Dennis.
Already?
So thank you. Yes, already. It goes really quickly. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, Dennis.
Absolute pleasure.
It was a pleasure to have you. Good to see you again, and not on a Zoom call this time.
Indeed.
So yeah, I hope the audience, I hope you all had a wonderful time. I hope you got some really good tips from Dennis and enjoyed this conversation. If there are any questions that pop up, any questions you might have for Dennis, for myself, or about future episodes, feel free to send an email to maconversation@dignify.be. Should be on the screen here. My great colleague Sarah will make sure that happens. And see you next time.